Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast, where we empower through innovation. I'm Allison Lacusier, your host, and each week we'll explore the mindset and the skill set of creating a successful practice and life for women in business. From the latest in dental technology to mastering marketing strategies, creating team synergy, cultivating a powerful money mindset, this podcast is your resource to empower yourself and your team to have the most success possible. Whether you're an established business professional or just beginning your journey, we're here to help you unlock your full potential, lead with confidence, and have an incredible journey along the way. Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast. Welcome to another episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. I am your host, Allison Lacusier, and I am here with a very special guest. Welcome, Sanjana, to Women in Digital Dentistry.
Thanks, Allison. It's good to be here.
We're so excited for you to be here. You and I have known each other for a very long time, and I've had the privilege and honor of just seeing you flourish in your industry. And you're in an industry and in an area and field that, as a woman and as a digital technology interested woman, as a business owner, I think we all need to hear your message. So let me introduce you to the group because this is going to be such a valuable podcast today. So Sanjana is a Colorado-based data scientist passionate about equity in AI, especially its impact on women and marginalized communities. When she's not tackling these things, these important topics, you can find her hiking with her dog, hitting the road for her next adventure. And she recently wrapped up a 3-month cross-country road trip through US's northern states. So she's an adventurer, a brilliant mind, and a very, very passionate woman around these topics. So we are so excited to have you here. Share with us just a little bit more about why you're so passionate about these topics.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me here. That was a great intro. I love data, and I think women are not represented in data enough. And AI and everything impacts us so much, but we're not always in the conversation. So all I want to do is get more women thinking about it, talking about AI, talking about data, using their own data for good and in the most powerful ways. Yeah, we have the power, so might as well use it.
Oh my gosh, I 100% agree. And it's interesting. The topic of AI is so big right now. And we're watching at an alarming speed. And you and I speak about this on a regular
Yeah.
basis, just the world changing. And I think I'm feeling, and I know many other people are feeling, many other women are feeling that we're kind of being maybe left behind, or there's certain things that we just maybe don't understand or we need to know. And so part of having you on here today is kind of unpacking or pulling back the curtain on some of the things that we really need to know. So my first question for you is, what does data literacy really mean? And why is it important for professionals in our field in dentistry and specifically for women?
Yeah, for sure. So data literacy is a skill to understand data. In the past, especially before smartphones and the age of the internet, data literacy was really reserved for data scientists, programmers, really people who like touched and manipulated data. But in today's world where everything is controlled by data, it is actually a skill that everyone needs to have. So if you think about, your phone and how you interact with your phone and the data that you exchange with your phone. So what is the data you're giving up about yourself, about other people, and then what are the data you're getting? So I think about like the screen time or health data that the app does. So you're actually using data when you look at those things every day. And you're using data when you look at social media. That's a data platform. Those are algorithms that are giving you recommendation on posts, what to buy. That's all data. So to me, data in today's world is equivalent to critical thinking. So data literacy and critical thinking are the same exact things.
Oof, I just got some goosebumps here. That's really, really important. And I have a feeling that most people don't know how important it really is, or even really aware of what's happening when we're using technology, when we're interacting with our interfaces. And I know that specifically millennials really love data. Like we don't trust things as much as the generations before us did, and we look to data for trust. And so
Mm.
when we're equating data literacy to critical thinking and also us being able to trust the things that we're seeing, I think it's so critical that we understand this. So, what can women do to become data literate?
Question everything. It's really it. So, as a data scientist, I'm going to tell you a few statistics about that I found about women and how we're using data. So, the World Economic Forum just conducted a study on how often women use generative AI versus men. So, men use generative AI at about 59%, whereas women use it at 51%. That's even an 8% gap in today's world is a big deal because these AI models are trained on the public, right? ChatGPT is being trained on the public. So if women are not leveraging that data or those tools, then those training models are now going to have the same biases and more geared towards men than they need to be geared towards women. The other statistic is women only make up 20% of AI professionals globally, and about only
Wow.
18%.
Wow.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And about 18% of AI researchers are women. That's a really small percentage of women building these models that impact our lives and our futures, right? Professionally, personally, daily. So that's a big gap there itself. And then women and girls are 25% less likely to know how to use technology effectively than men. Again, that's a quarter difference, big, big deals. So to me, to bridge these gaps, it's honestly start using it. So if you haven't used ChatGPT before, go, you don't even have to pay for it. Just use the free version, play with it. I love playing Beat the AI. So I try to ask as many questions as I can to make it get an answer wrong. And sometimes it gets math problems wrong. So I ask it basic math questions, or even like since I'm in a master's program around data science, I ask it like stats questions. And it'll get the stats questions wrong. And then I can be grounded into the reality of, okay, here's how the model works. Here's where it falls short. Here's how I need to ask the questions for it to work. So you start understanding, okay, here's how these algorithms work. And at the end of the day, all these AI, they're not like sentient or the hype is very much like these are very like we use words like reasoning, which is makes them sound very human like, but they're really not. They're just patterns that these are algorithms that are trained on such large data sets that they're able to identify really strong patterns, right? So how we speak, how we communicate, those are all just patterns that these algorithms have learned. So once you start playing with it, you just kind of understand the patterns, and then the I think the hype kind of just like gets a little grounded. The other thing women can do is just get really critical of what they're seeing on their social media, on their news outlets, anything. Start questioning. You could ask, is this real? Is this fake? What could it not? Rather than asking, okay, what could make this real? Ask yourself, what could make this fake?
Mm,
Right? Because we're going to start seeing a lot more AI created content out there. And it's really important to say, oh, that background of this image, Allison's picture might be real, but the background that she uses might be very fake because, Apple and Google are releasing phones where you can do that. So understanding, okay, this is the part of the content that's fake. This is
yeah.
the part of the image that might be real. These are the words that might have been created by AI versus this might actually be someone speaking or writing. So trying to understand those small patterns, and it's going to get harder and harder because AI is just getting better and better. So starting today and understanding that sets you up for success as these models get better.
Wow. Yes, 100%. And I started using ChatGPT in my business early this year, and it's transformed my business completely. I run my business differently. I have different types of employees. I think differently with the use of ChatGPT in such a short period of time. And
Yeah.
I'm like a basic user. Like I would say I'm like the basic user of ChatGPT, but it's so powerful and so efficient. But we have to also, like you said, question, is the information that I'm getting, is what I'm creating in here actually true or real or factual or correct? And I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
part that truly scares me the most is because a lot of people are just not going to question, and they're really going to look at it as the truth, and it's not. And a few weeks ago, the Women in Digital Dentistry group, we actually got on together and I showed them ChatGPT and we went through some prompts just for social media and for marketing and how they can use it in their business. And it's always, and I'm sure you've seen this so much, and anybody that's listening hasn't seen this, it's always the like, whoa, as we start to see the speed in which it's pulling information, how quickly it can get things that used to take us a lot of time done. It's incredible the power of it and how we can apply it in business. And I know, like you said, it's just going to continue to change. And I think the real thing that we need to just know is how do we be a savvy user of this and know and understand what's going to happen next. So what are some of like the terms like that we really need to know and understand? Like what would you say are kind of like some red flags that we can kind of put up to keep ourselves safe and also be able to utilize it for living in our businesses?
Yeah. So the terms that I would really think about are, what is AI? So AI, we now call it the artificial intelligence. It's not sentient. So I think that's one thing we need to dispel. And I think tech companies do a really poor job about this because they like the hype of it. But it's just pattern, right? Which it is AI in today's world, especially generative AI, is large language models. So they are training on these gigantic data sets that are like unlike anything we've ever seen before. But they're also just language models. So that means they're actually just looking at communication, how we speak, how we write, how we visualize. So that's how those language models are working. And all they're doing is discovering patterns. So what if so it's not sentient, it sounds and it talks like a human, but that's because if we think about the way our English language goes, we all learn grammar and what is the preposition, what comes next, right? We learn how sentence structuring is done. The models are doing the same thing. They're just following the patterns of sentence structuring. And so if you type in a word, all these models are doing is going finding, okay, they asked a question, this is the way it's phrased. What is the probability? Let me find other data sources and data points that kind of seem familiar to fit it. And then it pulls that in to give you an answer. So it's not thinking, it's not reasoning, right? This is not a living being at all. What is interesting is the newest generative AI model, 401, that was released by OpenAI. That model does it where it can both give you an output, and before it gives you the output, it can go back and set optimizes itself. So that's a big deal because now it's not only giving you the first answer and then you go, no, that's wrong, I need it more details. It's doing that itself. So that's where that term reasoning is coming from. So you'll see that more and more in the news outlets, and the way like the tech industry is going to start talking, they're going to say, oh, AI is reasoning. It's going back and optimizing its own self, because honestly we've trained it to do that,
Yeah.
right? So as we've played around with it and as we've said, hey, don't, it's not actually, I need this instead of this, that those models are learning off of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a like a very important term. And then lastly, I think understanding its impacts to women. Good AI helps and like moves forward the needle for women. Bad AI is actually going to do a lot more harm to women in marginalized communities. It's going to bring that gap further and further, right? So this is where data literacy really comes in, questioning, hey, has this data been, are there women in this data sets that's being,
Yeah.
right? Especially in dental, you'll see a lot more around predictive dental care. I think you'll see a lot more around analyzing x-rays. Generative AI will analyze those x-rays, give you recommendations, give doctors recommendations. And then doctors are the ones that have this knowledge. So especially women dentists can really say, okay, they made this recommendation. Where is that data coming from? Do we see dental care different for women than men? Do we see it different for, Black women than Black men? Like really understanding those nuances and questioning that data makes us more impactful
Mhm.
than the AI models can ever be.
So, so powerful. I'm so happy we have you on today, and I'm so excited for everyone to just start their journey into understanding this. I personally feel like there's a lot of fear, I think, around it just because it's like unknown. There's also a lot of excitement, I think, because we recognize how it can optimize our lives and help us. And yet, I think the scariest thing that we can do is stay ignorant and to pretend like it's not changing the world
Mm-hmm.
every single day. And I think it's so important for especially women, especially marginalized communities to really like be intentional and active and find ways to learn. What do you feel the future of AI in general is going to be?
So I think we'll see agents come out. So with generative AI, so think Chat GPT, but now rather than a large, like just a open source, you'll probably see agents come out in dentistry. So that could help you, a specific agent that focuses, so a chatbot that really focuses on the knowledge and intelligence of dentistry. And you'll see these agents come out more and more in specialized fields, because you don't, like, dentists don't need all the data and all the open content in the world. They just need, if they need a recommendation, if they need to understand research that other organizations have done, things like that. So you'll see smaller agents come into play. I also think you'll see these agents now start to interact with each other. So you might have a group of agents and a layer where it starts interacting. And I think that's where all these cool opportunities come. What's really important to note, though, is women have different needs for AI than men. So I had a really interesting conversation with a woman last week about AI, and she said, I don't really need to talk to a bot, right? I don't need to ask questions. I don't need to, like, that's not the information. What I need is an AI that can consolidate all the different emails that I have, all the different areas of my life that I'm juggling between work, family, schools, things like that, and consolidate it and give me the tasks and manage. So you'll probably see that come into play too, is more concierge services. And I think it's that those pieces, I think it's really important for women to have a voice, because that's
Yeah.
our needs being met, is managing our time, helping us release tasks, helping us, we juggle 8 different things, and whereas men probably don't do as much. So it's like, how can these AI really help us? I think that's what we'll really have to pay attention to, is we're still seeing these communication pieces. That's probably not doing justice to the impact AI can have on women.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering some of the statistics that you brought forward of like who's creating these models and like the gender that they are. And it's true, like one of the initiatives and one of the biggest, like the purpose of women in digital dentistry was empowerment through innovation, was allowing women in dentistry to carve out a different model or path for how business is done, leveraging technology. And so understanding how to use AI in that empowerment, I think, is so critical and really helping us understand how do we help it help us in our lives and our businesses, especially with, women in dentistry right now. Like a big struggle for female doctors is they're the home, they're organizing their home, they're
Mm,
organizing their kiddos, they're running their practice. So they have so many different things that they're managing and juggling. And we've seen the use of technology be able to help them be more profitable, have more time, take better care of their patients. And so AI is going to be a big player in that. And I'm so excited to see how it evolves. But I'm also so grateful that we have people like you to come in and teach us and help us kind of demystify some of the things that we feel maybe even at this point silly to ask. And so
yeah.
from here, like where can women reach out to you to potentially, have a consultation or have a discussion with you? Because I know that you consult for organizations and you help them in so many different ways. So where can they find you and reach out to you? And then I'll ask my second question.
Sure. You can just reach out to me by email. I don't know if you want me to say the email
You can say it and I'll
or
definitely put it in the show notes and it'll be
okay.
linked below.
Okay. So the email is sanjchint12. So SanjChint12 @gmail.com. I love having conversations about this. So even if you just want to ask more questions, converse, talk about anything around AI equity and AI ethics, I am all ears. So please reach out.
I love that. And if women want to continue their journey and, learning, like where are we reading? What are we looking at to continue just staying in the loop really on this conversation?
Yeah. So um, I would start with YouTube. So I would look up, the basics of deep fakes.
Mm,
Those are great videos out there of teaching people, what do you look for a fake video versus a real one, or a fake image versus a real one. I think that's a great place to start. Using ChatGPT and other AIs. There are so many websites out there around AI. Just play with them. I recently discovered Simplified, which is an AI that makes presentations for you automatically. So that, see what, think about the need that you have that would make your life easier. And then Google, okay, what is there a generative AI out there that does that? And 90% chance there is. And if there isn't, tell me the idea. Maybe we'll build it.
yeah, exactly.
So
I
that's
just use your imagination. Yeah.
seriously, yeah. So that's how you can do that. And then lastly, I would definitely recommend, there are two podcasts I really love. One is called Technically Optimistic. And the host, I forget his name, but all he does is dive into any type of AI and what the consequences are and what people are talking about. How's policy around it? What are the social impacts? What are, you know, the civilization impacts? So he goes as broad as and esoteric as that, and as like tangible as what can we do day to day. That's a really great podcast. The other one is the MIT Media Lab does a podcast around AI, and they talk about everything from AI as we see generative AI, but also around autonomous vehicles and AI being built in that, AI built around robotics, which might have an impact in dentistry as well, as we think about like orthodontist surgeries, things like that, that will have a great impact. So that blending of where do you see AI, not just on your interfaces, but also in the world, and where will we start seeing it more? So they do a really good job of that.
Amazing. Amazing. What is your big impact as you being a data scientist, you having this big dream and mission for empowering women and marginalized communities? Like, what is the impact that you feel like you want to make the most in the world when it comes to this? Because you're so bright, you're so, positioned to support and to make a difference. And so I would love to share with everybody like what your dream is as it relates to this knowledge and the gifts that you have.
Yeah. My dream is for everyone to be data literate, right? That is like the big goal. I believe that every person needs to be data literate, because if we're not, as you said, if we live in the shadows, we're going to be left behind or harmed or taken advantage of. The disparities of AI are very real, and they're getting realer by the minute. So just like, I would love it if, even my grandmother was data literate. Like that's how where I want to get to, because I think that's how we really ensure that these models are being built for us, these companies are being built for us, these products are being built for us and our own needs. um, is when we know what's going on with them.
So good. So important. Sandra, I want to honor you for the work that you're doing, for your vision, and for your ability to see, I would say, see the things that are really necessary in today's world and how you're positioning yourself to help solve for those and solve for the people around you that won't be able to solve these things on their own. And I just see you as such an advocate, such a visionary, such a leader. And I'm just so excited to see your career just continue to soar. And for anybody that is curious after this podcast and wants to know more, please, please, please reach out to her. She's brilliant and you will leave just so inspired and informed and empowered. So thank you for being on the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast today. This is such a powerful podcast. I cannot wait for our listeners to digest this, to connect with you, and to just continue to be empowered through innovation.
Thanks for having me, Allison. This was awesome.
Yes. We will see everybody on the next episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. If this resonated with you, if it was helpful, if you know somebody that it would be helpful for, which by the way is everybody, send it to them, do them a favor and get this podcast in their inbox, in their messages so we can get this information out to the rest of the world. Thank you for listening and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. We hope you found today's discussion inspiring and full of actionable insights to help you thrive in your practice and beyond. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. And if you know someone who would benefit from these conversations, please share this podcast with them. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so feel free to leave us a review or connect with us on social media. Together, we are building a powerful community of women leading the way in digital dentistry. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep making a difference in the world of dentistry. Thanks for listening.